Hey, this is Adam with Tech Dive AV Club, and today we're talking about Vegas Pro 23 and all the new exciting changes they've done. I actually went to their blog post and I printed out all the changes, and it is a book. It is a book. And we're going to go over an overview today of the changes and jump into the software and take a look at what they look like as well. Thank you for Magix for providing the software for me to review. And also, I've got a lot of tutorials coming out which are going to deep dive into a lot of these new improvements and how to utilize them in a very effective, time efficient, and awesome way. All right, so on the back of this book, I've written a list that amalgamates a lot of the changes into something I can actually say and remember. I've had to redo this take like a bazillion times. So in general, we're talking about a lot of under-the-hood improvements, including codec streaming improvements and some color grading under-the-hood improvements as well. There are huge amounts of improvements with the color panel and the color panel workflow. It's no longer docked. It is a dockable window. You have a new location you can dock things, a host of UI updates, some new track effects workflow, which some of the most exciting stuff as well, because there's live keyframing you can do now. You can also like package effects together. A lot to talk about. Audio has had a whole host of improvements. There's a new modern EQ tool, which is great. I'm going to show you everything about that. Auto ducking is now a thing. I know that's something we've been waiting for a while. It is here. And auto-normalize is also a thing. It's a new render workflow as well. I believe this render workflow is a little more beginner friendly, but there's also all the professional functionality still there. We're going to talk more about the details with that new workflow, and we're going to talk about Vegas Capture 2.0. I actually asked for Vegas Capture back in the day, years ago. There is a version of it that was available with the software that it didn't do what I needed it to do yet. I really like this version of Vegas Capture. I think I'm going to be integrating this into my tutorial workflow. Very exciting stuff. There's more to talk about than this. We just got to jump in and take a look. So I've got some footage here that is primed for color correction. It's a little dark. It's a little green. It needs a little work. So like in the past, you can hit Alt-G to bring up the color grading panel, but this is its own panel now. I have it as one of the panels here in my window, but you can put this anywhere. You can move this anywhere you like. You can hold control to dock it anywhere. This is now a free-floating window. It's no longer tied to the bottom anymore. You can still dock anything you would like in the bottom, but it doesn't have to be there. It can be wherever you would like it. Including on a separate monitor, which is going to be very helpful for me in the future. So the way this works now is everything kind of has its own tabs. Again, there'll be another video detailing how to use these features to their fullest, but I just want to highlight a few things here as we look at the new feature. There's all these canned, ready to go lookup tables, including one for mobile Apple Log, which is a very common way to shoot nowadays. And if you look at the color grading wheels, you can see if I have my clip that I would like to color grade selected, that's a funny shot. So I can grab the wheels and I can turn them. And you can see when you do a lot of turning, there's a visual representation now in the circles of where you're moving the color to. This is the offset, so I'm changing the color of everything. What's cool about this is it makes it a lot easier to control. You can view them individually, and you can view them as a circle or as dials, depending on how you would like to do it. And you can toggle them all. You can even change certain ones by colors or dials. A lot of functionality here. You can also go to the view window layouts and go to color correction layout, and here you can have a layout that's a little more dedicated to color correction. Now there's a lot more customizability with the docking areas, including ways to show and hide the windows and move them around very quickly with keystrokes, and we'll be going over all of that as well in future videos. Now we're going to talk about some of the effects workflow changes, including OFX keyframe animations. We're going to go to View, Show OFX event envelopes beta. And you can see now there's a drop down where I can see event envelopes. I already have color grading on this, and this is any of the effects in my effect chain. So if I go to my effect chain, you can see there's color grading. You can see color grading. So let's do something interesting with. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-Q, create a new track. I'm going to go to media generators, titles and text, and I'm going to grab a title here. Let's try this one. Dream big and dare to fail. And we're going to make it track with this camera. Maybe not right on it, but above it or below it or to the side of it. We'll figure it out as we go. That's the beauty of this. So yes, you can do much more detailed hand tracking. You can do much more detailed automated tracking. There's all sorts of tracking options. But this is just one of the ways, one of the many ways that this new workflow will be helpful. So this is like a medium tracking way, right? So we can go to picture-in-picture in our video effects. Type picture, there we go, picture-in-picture. Drag it down and drag it onto the track itself. So now on the track, you can see I have picture-in-picture. If I hit that I want the location to be keyframed, as well as the scale, I can change the scale and location in real time. So if we look, let's go ahead and find where we want it to go. We want it to be right here, maybe at the bottom. And then you can see, if you look underneath, a keyframe has been created right there. So now I'm going to hit play, and I'm just going to drag this around. Now, obviously, that's not going to be a very practical solution, but you can see now my dragging around, all these keyframes have been created. I can go through, smooth them up, put them where I want them to go. But this is just a quick demonstration of the ability to just make keyframes on the fly and do them right here on the timeline itself, instead of having to punch in the more detailed way that you used to have to do it. So I'm excited to get into more details about that in a future video. All right, so I'm starting fresh, and I'm going to add a new effect. Actually, I'm going to have a few new effects. I'm going to add black and white. I'm going to add film grain, and I'm going to add a vignette. Just add a few different things. We're going to make an old-timey footage, since I'm holding a this is not quite, the cameras definitely, they had a color film when this camera existed, but we're gonna make something look a little old-timey. So what we can do is we can actually hit this button right here, save plugin chain as filtered package. And I'm gonna call this old-timey film. Again, this is not a very good version of that, but it is a functional version, so we can do what we're gonna do here. So now we have a plugin chain. Let's add some more footage. Now you can see, because the chain, the effects are on the clip or the event itself, when I click right here, I can see the affecting events on the clip, but when I click on this event, I don't see any of them, because those events in the plugin chain aren't affecting that one. But let's create a new track for even more clarity here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a plugin from my plugin chain. If I go to filtered packages, you can see it says old-timey film. If I add that and hit OK, look at that. Old-timey film is now on here. It is its own effect chain. You can see these are all pre-separated, which is great because I want to customize it further. But I already have all these effects already added onto it, right there, ready to go. You can imagine there's a bazillion things you can do to optimize your workflow. Now, let's say I wanted to expand one of these keyframes. I can actually drop down and expand this. Let's make a change on these right here. Let's change the black and white to 100%. You can see nothing happened because I need to hit this keyframe button. But now let's change to black and white to 100%. You can look right here. You get a real-time display of both the dialed in version here, or you can see it right here on the timeline. So on the timeline itself, you can edit and add keyframes and edit the curve of keyframes to make things kind of go in and out of different effects. And you can right click and you can specify the blend amount. And you can also do some preset blend amounts. But now we got a nice little S curve. Now you can see your filtered packages that you want to add. You can see them right here. And you can actually just drag them into new videos just by clicking and dragging. I just doubled up, right? So now I've got double the effects on it. If I remove all of these and go back to normal on this one, I can go up here from my filtered packages, grab old-timey film, drag it back on, and boom, I'm right back to where I was. Great. Amazing. And you, as before, you could go ahead and customize presets inside of here as well for the individual effects. So you can imagine the layering of usefulness that's going on. Very exciting. All the screen recording in this video has been done with Vegas Capture. Vegas Capture is pretty self-explanatory. You can launch it from the File menu, and it's really, you just capture all the different media that you want to capture as independent sources. You can drag them in or import it directly into the project when you're done. And it's that simple. Another thing to point out is the new render workflow. So if I go to File and then Render, what it will do is you can see, I've already been in here some, you've got your favorites, your recent, which is a nice, easy way to see what you typically use. And then you've got your use cases. This is a way for beginners to very quickly see what will help them do what. And it lists out the different formats and exactly why. And again, you can customize these. If you don't want them sorted by use case, you can also have them sorted by if they're a video codec or an image codec or an audio codec. And you can customize these as before, and you can put them where you want them to go. All these options are available, but when you render out a video, let's call this one old test. I'm going to make sure I have render loop region only selected because that's how I like to do it. That means this is my loop region that I have pulled over the video. It will render that. Again, we'll get more detail later. As I render this video, you can see there are options you can do when the render completes, like open a folder or shut down your computer after the render completes. If we go to the audio here, we can add an effect. You can add this on the track or on the video itself. If we go to all, you can see modern equalizer. We're going to add that. You can see it in our chain and hit OK. This is the modern equalizer. I'm going to hit Q over here so it will loop. And
you can see that the camera looks a lot like this one.
You can see
that's because
when I'm
even
talking,
though this is like a 1960s-ish version of a Polaroid camera,
I can now see in real time what I'm doing to my waveform as I manipulate it. So cool. So exciting. You can see where your hisses are more exactly happening. You can see where your resonances are happening.
Mostly because you don't want to
there's so much you can do with this, including curve types, including some presets, including changing the gain, the levels, the frequency you're controlling by these knobs here, which gives you even more control. The modern equalizer is a feature I'm extremely excited about, and I will be using every day. And you can see if you don't want this live feed, you can also turn it off. Now take a look at these waveforms here. What a lot of people don't realize is there's a feature in Vegas where you can quickly normalize audio and get everything kind of moved up together in volume to hit kind of what it's max capable of. Normalize it. And when you hit normalize, you can see that everything kind of jumped up in size. Now, that's something different we can do is we can actually set a clip to be auto-normalized. So if I go to auto-normalize, it not only normalizes the clip, but it will continue to do it. So you can see right here, I'm talking much louder into my dynamic mic than I am right here. So if I cut this one into pieces, you can see that jumped up in size because it's now louder to match and to normalize with this piece of audio here. So you can get quieter sections where you're talking to be louder. Now, there's a more elegant way to use this, and we'll be talking about that in the future, but that's the auto-normalize feature. It's going to be a huge time saver. Two big changes when you're editing on a timeline. One, when you play a video, used to, when you hit play, it would move back to where the cursor started. That was considered stopping the video instead of pausing it. So this would be your starting point. When you stop the video, it would start back here. Now, in line with many other editing software, it just pauses the video. This is a preference that you can switch back if you'd like. And you can also notice that it used to be when you grab the scrub head, it would actually scrub through the video, which is something you can do down here. And it would go at rates, kind of limit you to rates which audio could be played back. Not necessarily intelligibly, but like could be scrubbed through, right? This no longer scrubs, it just moves the cursor through the timeline when you grab at the top. Something you may also notice now is the timeline cursor moves when you click on an event. This is to behave in more industry standard ways. That doesn't mean that it has to do that. If you prefer the timeline cursor to stay put, you can go to the editing tab in your preferences and undo this option. All right, I've got some crazy loud rock music here, and I've also got myself talking, and let's see how this goes. All right, that's not going to work, right? So what you would typically do is you would first kind of EQ your audio. A good way to do it is just to bring down the gain significantly on something like this. And if you soloed the audio, you can see you could bring it down to where its levels are much lower. So you would want the levels like kind of down here where they wouldn't fight the audio. And so if I went and I soloed the audio, you can see some kind of. I want to go change this back. I like the new way. Okay.
We wanted to make this camera a little more fantastical, which is why you can see some kind of gears and stuff inside of our.
So the audio, I haven't really done any EQing or anything on this like I normally would have, but let's just go ahead and turn up the volume a little bit here.
Gears and stuff inside of our camera.
So now you can see that this audio is kind of hitting towards the top and this is hitting towards the bottom. So now when I play them together, you will be able to hear me somewhat better.
We wanted to make this camera a little more fantastical, which is why you can see some kind of.
But a lot of times you lose some of the bass and stuff like that in the music. So what we need to do is maybe bump up the audio a little bit, and we can use auto ducking. Now, what auto ducking is, it will drop the volume as you go. So you kind of, when I have waveforms pushing up right here, the volume will naturally drop down right here. So you can kind of still have your cake and eat it too as far as loudnesses go. When you want something to be in the foreground, it will take the foreground, and then it will the background music can take the foreground immediately when you stop talking. Let's take a look at how that works. Now, this is something that I would do at the end. Again, we're going to have a whole nother video where we deep dive into the details of this. But let's pretend everything's done. We're not really planning on making any more changes. We're ready to do the auto ducking to kind of finish formalizing it. I'm going to call this track the auto ducking controller. And you can change the settings on flow reduction and peak reduction and precision on how quickly we'll react to the waveforms here. I'm just going to go with the defaults and hit OK. And you can see here, it's drawing per each clip all the different keyframes. These are reference keyframes. These aren't doing anything to our audio. These are essentially grabbing the data we need to use elsewhere. So on this keyframe, what we can do is we can go to ducking listener, and we can have it listen to the controller track audio 3. Because I already have this track here, the third track, as a controller track, when I add a listener, it knows that there's a control track as a listener. There's already a control track it can listen to. You can see here, now it can react. It's reacting to this. So now when I play them together, you can hear them actually responding to one another, and you'll get a much better, you'll get much more clarity in your audio and things like that when you want to have background music.
Developer on it right away and stuff, and that's not necessarily fun. We wanted to make this camera a little more fantastical.
And so that worked very well with some very light mixing. I haven't really done half the mixing tricks I typically do, but it's already sounding quite feasible. Like I can hear myself over the audio quite well. So if you look at this video format, it is a 4K resolution, and it's not the highest bit rate for a 4K resolution, but still a relatively beefy video. And even though my computer is a fairly good build, it's pretty old now, but a fairly good build, you can see that my playback is very smooth. This is achieved because Vegas utilizes GPU as well as CPU rendering right there on the timeline, and it has rendering options you can do to render from your GPU as well. It is for Intel, NVIDIA, and AMD. They've improved a lot of the under the hood for that. Would be a fun video topic on its own, really talking about how that works. But for the most part, what you need to know is that there's just improved functionality with adding different video types. A very common video type is AVC video. And you can see now that this is an AVC video you're watching. My playback was always relatively smooth, but I'm noticing it's loading faster. I can scrub through it faster. Windows doesn't really get thrown as much as I pop around the project here and just select different starting points. It doesn't really take long to load anymore. That, for the most part, is all the changes for the Vegas Pro 23. Again, a very exciting update, and I've got a lot of tutorials coming to show you all the new details with that, and we're going to revisit some old topics as well. I've got the channels getting rebooted, guys. We're going for it. So you better hit that subscribe button because we got a lot of ground to cover. Oh, also, you can support the channel by clicking the affiliate link below to buy the software. That helps me out a tremendous amount and lets me spend more time making tutorials for you guys.